Okay, where was I? Let's go over some of the tools, stuff we'll need to be doing this. Getting all the old grease out of the inside of the hub. We're going to go through a whole lot of paper towels. Pretty much need to have an air compressor and a blow nozzle. Some spray brake cleaner. This is a brake adjusting lever. It is used to adjust brakes when you get this little rubber seal out of the adjusting slot on the back plate. That lets you reach in with the tool and grab that star wheel and adjust it one way or the other to move the brakes out. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it. These brake assemblies have a right and left. This arm that the magnet is mounted on goes towards the front of the vehicle. And sometimes you'll find those actually installed wrong from the factory. Anyway, brake adjusting lever. In a pinch like the side of a road, a screwdriver can be used, but it's really a pain. Definitely worth a few bucks to buy one of these. And actually, deep well impact sockets for the lugs there. I've got a breaker bar, a torque wrench. Don't necessarily need an air impact gun, just faster since I have to have the air compressor out anyway. Crescent wrench and a pliers, and I've got a hammer. Of course, you don't need a hammer that big, but it's kind of handy to have a nice flat face like that for some things. Of course, I've got a jack, lots of good solid blocking, and a safety stand. Then lastly, I've got some solvent in a pan and a part brush there. A few notes on safety. Never use gasoline as a solvent. It's really tough on your skin. It's poor at removing grease. And it has a pretty low flash point. It's pretty dangerous. People get killed that way. It doesn't take much to set it on fire. So I'll use either kerosene or diesel or a commercial parts solvent. Other safety issues, if you've got an older vehicle, it may have asbestos brakes. So we're not going to use the blow nozzle to blow dust out of the brake assembly or out of the hub. Essentially, the blow nozzle will need to blow the solvent out of the wheel bearings once we've got them cleaned. Spray brake cleaner also has all sorts of nasty chemicals on it, so you'd want to avoid breathing that. Use it in a good, well-ventilated area. And lastly, people hurt themselves having a jack tip over or sink into the dirt or something like that. So we'll always use two methods of supporting the vehicle, because you're going to have to be underneath it to adjust the brakes. So always have a safety stand and a jack, or a big stack of blocking and a jack. Have two good solid things under a vehicle when you're working on it. And I guess that's about it. Don't inhale brake dust. Don't use solvents that have a low flash point, and don't tip the trailer over on yourself. So with that, we'll get set up here and buttoned up that brake. We'll do a little step-by-step on this one. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do before I jack the vehicle up is I'm going to take my breaker bar and socket and break these lug nuts loose a little bit. So with the impact gun, it's not really necessary, but otherwise you want to not be torquing real hard on maybe somewhat seized up lug nuts when the vehicle's up on the jack. So we'll break those free. And then we'll be ready to jack up the vehicle. On axles where the axle tube is above the spring pack, it's generally safe to put the jack directly under the spring pack and lift it that way. Just to note, make sure you've positioned the jack so that when the vehicle's up in the air you can get the brake adjust lever into that slot. Kind of a bummer to get it up in the air and realize you blocked access to that and have to set it down and reposition the jack. If the axle tube is under the spring pack, it might be best to jack the trailer by the frame. Some of these light duty axles, if the trailer's loaded, it's possible to cave in or dent the axle tube with your jack. And then of course we'll get a safety stand under it and pull the wheel off. Okay, so here we are with the wheel off and the vehicle up on a jack and a safety stand. It's got some drag in it. Next we'll take this dust cap off. Usually a big slip joint pliers is pretty handy to do that. Let's throw that in our solvent. We got us a mess of grease in here. And see our castellated nut and castellated nut and cotter pin right there. So we'll get that straightened out. Oops. A lot of these, the cotter pin goes straight across. Some of them are designed for easy lube, where there'll be a zerk fitting in the middle intended to push grease into a port between the seal and the inner bearing, and thereby let you drive grease forward through the bearing, which of course ends up, the cotter pin can't go through that same channel. Anyhow, I don't really care for those. So I think the problem you end up with as far as failures with wheel bearings and trailers is condensation, and the grease has gotten old and separated. And those easy lube things might push a little vein of clean grease through the bearings, but it won't remove all the old nasty grease. And also, of course, if that inner seal is at all weak, you're going to end up pumping grease into the brakes. And then lastly, of course, if you don't disassemble the thing, you don't get a chance to inspect the brakes, clean the dust and crap out of them, that sort of thing. So I generally like to pull them down. One other note, the non-easy lube ones will have a metal dust cap like that, and the ones with easy lube will have kind of a rubber bellows on the dust cap. The reason being, when you hand pack these with grease, there's a void of air between the two wheel bearings. Of course, you know, grease expands when it heats, and that air can compress. With the easy lube ones, the thing is entirely packed with grease that doesn't compress, and when it heats and expands, it needs some place to go other than getting pressurized enough to blow through that seal, hence the little bellows on the dust cap. Anyway, now that we got that cotter pin out, actually, grab a crescent wrench and get that nut off of there. Now that goes in the solvent. We'll give the drum a little jiggle here, and we should get the flat washer. Sometimes these will be keyed to a slot in the axle, and sometimes they're not. This one doesn't happen to be. There's your bearing, and usually you can just pull the drum off the axle like so. Sometimes, however, if the drum is worn enough that it has a ridge around the outside, you may have to reach in there and back off the brake shoes in order to get the drum off. And also, if for some reason the bearing is hung up on the spindle here a little bit, you may really have to jerk the thing off of there. I should mention, when you get the spoon in there and move up, turn that star wheel, the inboard edge of that star wheel up. That's moving the brake shoes out or tightening them up. Moving that star wheel down, the inside edge of it down, releases them. So anyway, here you can see the grease seal, the other bearing in there. These are just pressed into the hub, so we'll just pry that grease seal out. Again, I'd absolutely say do not reuse these, it's just not worth it. So also makes it easier to take it out, no fear of damaging it. I think that's recording. Anyway, here's the seal knocked out. Of course, that's trash. There's your inner bearing, and a bunch of nasty grease. And you can see that's why I say I like to tear it down. A lot of times that grease is just separated, and you can tell it's just nasty. And what we're trying to do is get that out of here, not just get a little bit of clean grease mixed in with that. Okay, here's the brake assembly cleaned up a little bit, and of course you want to pay special attention to the spindle here, including the area where the grease seal rides right there. You don't want any little chunk of grit adhering to that, so it'll tear up your nice new grease seal. As you can see, the pads are nice and thick. The arm the magnet's on is to the front of the vehicle, so it's correctly installed. If the pads were bad or had been overheated or whatever, and I needed to replace the brake shoes or whatever, you'd want to make sure and do that as a set. Both sets of brakes on that axle would need to be replaced if either one of them are bad. Then here's the hub. I've just gotten all that old nasty grease out of the inside of it, and that gives me a nice view and chance to feel the outside races of both bearings. If there's any scratches there that you can catch a fingernail on, or if they look heated or anything like that, they're shot. And if they were shot, of course, we'd end up replacing both of these races and both bearings all as a set if any one of those components is bad. Also, looked over the drum good for any signs of cracking or anything like that. If the drum were to be warped, you'd likely see kind of an intermittent mark where the brake pads have been riding on it, in which case I'd replace the drum assembly and the wheel bearings. This one appears to be in real good shape. The armature has a little bit of wear on it, but it's certainly serviceable and it'll work great. I won't clean up the hub completely everything needs to be free of grease, of course, when it goes back together. I should have mentioned if that grease seal had leaked and the brake pads on those shoes had been contaminated with grease, they'd be trashed too. There's no way to fix that. Anyway, this is in real good shape, and I'll wait to really clean this out until I get the repacked bearing with fresh grease in there, because I might get greasy fingerprints on something and undo my work of cleaning it. And then over here I've just brushed these good in the solvent until they're clean and wiped them down. The bearings, though, we're going to need to get that solvent out of the bearings, and of course that's what the air nozzle is for on the compressor here. The only thing of note that way, you can actually damage these bearings if you were to hit them with air and cause it to twirl. I guess that can actually cause little scratches on the rollers that can later lead to a problem. So it's just a matter of I'm going to restrain that from rolling and blow air through it both directions. Okay, you have to excuse me. I'm kind of shooting blind with the bright sun. I can't see the screen of this this recorder, but anyway, here's the bearing after it's been blown dry. That's another good reason not to use gasoline. A little bit of residue of diesel isn't really going to hurt anything, but gasoline really breaks down grease. So in addition to not being safe and not being good at dissolving grease, it's something you wouldn't want any trace of left behind, which is hard to do. So anyway, we're going to inspect this carefully. We're going to look at every roller and make sure there's no gouges, no pieces missing. Going to look at the cage, make sure it's not dented in anywhere. There's no signs of it overheating. The inner race isn't cracked or distorted, or doesn't show that it's been spun on the spindle. If you see anything even questionable on the wheel bearing, we'll just replace it. They're not expensive, and it's a whole lot better to do it now than to have it ruin a vacation, or if you're working, you know, to have several days down if this were to seize and wreck the whole axle. So I'm going to blow that out just a little bit more. You can see there's a little bit of solvent in there, and then we'll show you about packing them with grease.